미디어 프로젝트 14주 2차 시간을 시작하겠습니다. 이번 시간에는 기하급수적 기술 발전과 그 적용에 대해서 알아보도록 하겠습니다. 로보틱스에 대한 전문가의 강의를 들어보겠습니다.
We all have this great picture of robots in our head, right? We've all watched movies, we've all read books like C-3PO, R2-D2. How many of you have seen Big Hero 6 by any chance? Okay, good number. So soft robots show up in there, as well as micro robots, which are actually my specialty. So I really liked Big Hero 6. I have kids. I was excited to let them watch it. But then we also have scary robots that we talk about, so things like the Terminator.
우리는 스타워즈의 로봇부터 터미네이터 로봇까지 다양한 로봇들을 보아왔습니다.
So what I mean by a robot is something that senses and perceives its world, makes decisions based on that, potentially with the input of a human, kind of like what we just heard about, and then acts upon that and moves within its world.
로봇은 다음과 같은 4개의 기능을 가진 것으로 정의할 수 있습니다. 첫 번째로 자신이 있는 세계를 센스하고 퍼시브합니다. 두 번째로 그것에 의거해서 결정을 내립니다. 세 번째로 필요하다면 인간의 인풋을 받아들입니다. 네 번째로 자신이 있는 세계에서 행동을 취하고 움직일 수 있습니다.
So those are the kind of robots that I'm talking about. And we have two different types, and obviously a lot of hybrids in between. We have autonomous robots that do all of that on their own. So that would be like the Roomba. So you just press go, it vacuums your floor, and then goes back to its charging base.
현재 두 종류의 로봇이 있습니다. 하나는 autonomous, 자율적 로봇입니다.
And then you have teleoperated robots, where a human is actually a big part of the control. So that's like the drone that you saw earlier when you came in here, or like the Reaper in this picture.
또 다른 로봇은 사람이 텔레오퍼레이션을 하는 로봇입니다. 드론과 같은 경우가 이 케이스에 해당됩니다.
So there's a fair amount of interest in robotics as an exponential technology. And since I'm giving this talk here, I think it's pretty obvious that a lot of people think this way.
로봇 기술은 기하급수적인 속도로 발전하고 있습니다.
But I think one of the interesting things right now is that the robots of reality are starting to get to the point where they have similar capabilities to the robots of our imagination.
그동안에는 로봇이 우리의 기대에 미치지 못했지만 이제는 우리의 기대를 넘어서는 그런 크리티컬 포인트에 다다랐습니다.
Right? And this is a problem that roboticists fall into a lot, is that people imagine robots doing all of these crazy things. But we robotics researchers aren't quite there yet, but we're getting there, and we're getting there very quickly. So to give you an example of this rapid pace of change in robotics, this is a video that came out of the DARPA Robotics Challenge 2 years ago. The finals were 2 years ago.
몇 년 전 달파에서 주최한 로보틱스 챌린지의 사례를 소개합니다.
And so what you see here is this Atlas robot that was designed by Boston Dynamics. And this is a group down in Florida working with this. And the idea behind the challenge, and sorry the video looks a little jumpy, but the idea behind the challenge was that it stemmed from the Fukushima nuclear disaster.
이 행사는 후쿠시마에서 뉴클리어 디자스터가 생긴 다음에 만들어졌습니다.
And the idea that if you just had a robot that could have gone in there and turned a valve, you would have saved a lot of problems.
만약 로봇이 핵발전소 안에 들어가서 밸브를 잠글 수 있었다면 많은 문제를 해결할 수 있었을 것입니다.
And so this robot had to complete a number of tasks, be able to crawl through or walk through a rubble field, turn a valve, open a door, get into a Jeep and drive it. So there were a number of tasks that a human would be able to do just fine, but was a challenge for the robot.
이 챌린지에서 로봇은 기어가고 걷고 운전하는 등 사람으로서는 별로 어렵지 않은 일들을 하는 것이었습니다.
And what you see in this video is a robot effectively doing household chores. And the video is sped up. The robot was a lot slower than this. But it's really not doing anything more complex than I am convinced my 4-year-old can do, although she doesn't do it. All right, so these are the kind of things that robots are kind of at this toddler level.
여기서 로봇은 간단한 집안일을 하고 있는데 4살짜리 어린아이도 할 수 있는 일들입니다.
And interestingly, when you got to the competitions in the finals in 2015, summer 2015, what you saw more were things like this. So this is really what you see a lot in robotics reality. So this is like my 2-year-old. Oftentimes she'll be running and crash. So this happened a lot in this competition, and there's a lot of technical reasons for that. But one of the things I want to make very clear to you is all of the robots that you see on YouTube doing really cool things, there is at least hours of footage of them doing stuff like this.
2015년에 로봇 챌린지에서는 로봇들이 이렇게 넘어지는 일들이 자주 발생합니다. 유튜브에서 로봇들이 대단한 일을 해내는 경우에는 수시간에 걸친 이런 보여지지 않는 동영상들이 있습니다.
Right? Unless there's been painstaking tuning or it's stated otherwise. But this happens a lot in robotics. Usually when your advisor is looking over your shoulder for a demo. So just last year, Boston Dynamics came out with a new version of Atlas that looks like this. And one of the things that you notice right away with this robot is it moves faster. It's much more robust to its environment. It's walking through snow here. Some of you have probably seen the Big Dog videos from the same company. This is the same basic idea. And so this was enabled through a lot of technical developments, including things like 3D printing, which doesn't seem immediately connected, but is very connected to this.
2016년이 되자 보스턴 다이내믹스에서는 더 빠르고 로버스트한 로봇들을 개발해내기 시작했습니다.
And then finally, just a couple months ago, it was announced that SoftBank is buying Boston Dynamics from Alphabet. And SoftBank is responsible for the Pepper robot and the Now robot that you can probably see up there. And so these are very social. SoftBank's robots are designed to be very social. So I'm really interested to see what happens when you combine the physical capabilities of something like Atlas with the more social capabilities of something like Pepper. And I think that's ultimately the interesting direction that SoftBank wants to go.
2017년에는 소프트뱅크가 보스턴 다이내믹스를 인수했습니다. 소프트뱅크의 소셜한 기능을 보스턴 다이내믹스의 다이내믹한 기능에 어떻게 접목시키는지에 대해서 관심들을 갖고 있습니다.
So there are a lot of reasons, I think, for this exponential growth in robotics. Obviously, you have computation, right? You throw more computation at a problem, it becomes technically easier, right? Another big thing is sensing. So one of the sensors that's been developed and has enabled the whole autonomous car thing, and a sensor is also responsible for the drones. Just having an accelerometer and a gyroscope in a small chip package is what makes drones really possible. Right? Autonomous vehicles are enabled by what we call RGBD cameras that also give you depth information in addition to the normal color stuff.
로봇의 기하급수적 발전이 현재 일어나고 있는 이유는 첫 번째로 무오슬로로 불리는 컴퓨테이션의 발전입니다. 두 번째로는 더 작고 낮은 가격의 센싱 기술의 발전입니다. 주변 상황을 잘 파악하게 되면서 로봇의 퍼포먼스는 크게 증가했습니다.
So sensors have really helped push robotics forward quite a bit. They enable the robot to perceive its world much better. Right? Another big thing that is probably neglected a lot is the open source movement. So a lot of the robots, including Atlas that you just saw, actually has code that works on it that's written in what's called the robot operating system.
오픈 소스로 로봇 오퍼레이팅 시스템이 제공되면서 다른 사람들의 연구 결과를 계산해서 새로운 연구 결과를 내기가 훨씬 쉬워졌습니다.
And it's basically a database of code that you can try so-and-so's navigation algorithm or so-and-so's stability algorithm. And you can easily innovate on top of work that people have already done. And then finally, you have things like manufacturing and materials. Right? So that's really what enabled Atlas to perform as well as it did. So you had this lightweight plastics that were 3D printed, the hydraulic valves are 3D printed. You made everything much lighter weight and easier to control ultimately.
매니팩처링과 머티리얼에서는 라이트웨이트 플라스틱을 3D 프린팅할 수 있게 됨으로써 로봇을 제작할 수 있는 환경이 크게 개선되었습니다.
And then finally, markets. So robots have traditionally been the domain of manufacturing. We think of robots in manufacturing plants, and we think of robots for defense purposes. But now you have robots getting into the home. You effectively have Amazon Echoes on wheels that people are showing off at CES, the Consumer Electronics Show this year. So you have a lot of new markets, healthcare, all sorts of things that are really pushing innovation in robotics in different directions.
예전에 로봇 어플리케이션은 주로 디펜스를 생각했지만 이제는 집에서도 청소기로 사용할 수도 있고 아마존의 에코에 바퀴를 다룰 수도 있고 헬스케어에 사용할 수도 있습니다. 이처럼 다양한 어플리케이션들이 로봇의 발전을 돕고 있습니다.
So all of these things I view as adding to the capabilities of robots. First of all, making robots much more adaptable. And by that I mean traditional robots work very well in what we call structured environments. I know exactly where everything is in my environment. But robots now are actually becoming much more capable about working in unstructured environments, right? Being able to move through a room like this seems simple to you and I, but is actually very complex for a robot.
로봇의 중요한 기능 중 하나는 어댑터블한 것입니다. 여러분과 나는 이 방에서 쉽게 걸어갈 수 있지만 로봇은 그렇지가 않습니다. 과거의 로봇은 정리된 structured environment에서 동작했지만 이제는 unstructured environment에서 동작합니다.
And then we have robots that are softer, safer, and much more social. And that's ultimately going to enable robots to interact with us.
로봇들이 더 소프트해지고 세이프해지고 소셜해지면서 우리와 인터랙션을 하게 됩니다.
Right? Both physically and socially. And then you have robots that are becoming more autonomous, and that's due in large part to artificial or augmented intelligence, as you just heard.
로봇은 점점 더 autonomous, 자율적으로 되는데 그것은 인공지능과 증강현실 덕분입니다.
So I'm going to start with adaptability. And if we look at the natural world, insects, animals, incredibly adaptive and able to get through a variety of environments. But robots typically, if I have my Roomba robot, it gets to the edge of the stage and it's like, I don't know what to do now.
우리가 자연계에서 곤충과 동물을 보면 상당히 어댑터블합니다. 만일 로봇이 지금 단상의 끝에 있다면 어쩔 줄 몰랄 것입니다.
Right? So this is Rex out of University of Pennsylvania in Dan Kotichek's lab. And it was actually inspired by the way that cockroaches run. Right? But it does a pretty good job of getting through this kind of park environment. It can run through gravel, it can run through sand, it can do a lot of pretty impressive things, including jumping around.
벌레의 움직임에서 영감을 받아서 로봇을 움직이게 한 것입니다.
So this is actually the basic idea is spun into a commercial enterprise called Ghost Robotics. And they do a lot. One of the things I didn't mention about Rex is a lot of that was due to the compliance of the legs. Just making the legs a little springy is what enabled it to do all of that impressive stuff.
이 로봇은 다리에 스프링과 같은 탄력성을 주자 성능이 크게 개선되었습니다.
So Ghost Robotics, if you have $10,000 to spend, you can really prank your office mate by having this guy like walk into the door. So it costs about $10K, but you know, it's a pretty impressive robot.
보시는 것처럼 사무실의 문을 열고 들어갈 수도 있습니다.
So a lot of what enables the Ghost Robotics robot is new developments in motors. And I wanted to show this in part because this was one of the reasons this motor development happened was because Sangbae Kim, whose arm you see in this picture, was trying to make a robot cheetah.
이것은 로봇 치타를 만들 때 모터 디벨롭먼트를 시키는 것입니다.
Right? And so he was trying to make a robot that could run incredibly fast, that could leap, as you see in the picture, and withstand the kind of perturbations and impacts that you would have in an unstructured environment.
Unstructured environment에서 빨리 움직이게 되면 다리에 큰 임팩트를 받게 되는데 그것을 훈련시키는 과정입니다.
I'm very clumsy. I run into door jams all the time, right? But a robot like this could handle that kind of disturbance. And so this behaves a lot like the way muscle is, in that I can tighten my muscles and behave differently as I impact things. And so this allows us to get into new manufacturing environments, new application areas like mining, where you have a lot of bumping around and stuff as well.
이것은 머슬이 타이트해지는 것처럼 근육이 동작하는 방식과 유사한 점이 있습니다. 마이닝처럼 불규칙한 환경에서 작업할 때 필요한 기술입니다.
And then another way to become adaptable is to become very small, right? Ants are everywhere in the world. Spiders are everywhere in the world. Insects are ubiquitous, right? And this is from my own work, right? And I confess this is a real ant and a real robot, but it happens to be a particularly large ant. It's a bullet ant from South America. But the robot itself is pretty small too, about 5 millimeters on a side. And one of the things we're doing with this is studying how to locomote when we're very small, as well as studying integration problems of how you combine motors and sensors and mechanisms at these really small size scales. And that can ultimately have a lot of impact in things like healthcare.
로봇은 아주 작게 만들 수도 있습니다. 메디컬 분야에 적용할 가능성이 있습니다.
And then you have the other idea, if I have a lot of small, simple robots, but I have a lot of them, I have 1,000 of them, this came from Radhika Nagpal's lab at Harvard, I can make them incredibly adaptable by making them into any shape I want. In this case, I have literally 1,024 robots, they're called the kilobots, creating these shapes based on different algorithms defined on each robot. So it's pretty impressive stuff that you can do if you have a lot of small, simple things in terms of adaptability.
1000개의 어댑터블한 작은 로봇을 가지고 많은 모양을 셀프 어셈블리로 만들 수도 있습니다. 이러한 것을 로봇 스warm이라고 합니다.
So in addition to locomotion and being able to get around your environment, adaptability is also incredibly important in things like logistics applications and manufacturing.
어댑터빌리티는 로지스틱스 그리고 매니팩처링에서 중요합니다.
And so this is a company where I have a friend, Right Hand Robotics, where they're actually designing a hand, a robot hand, which robot hands traditionally, unless I know exactly what my part looks like, have a lot of trouble picking up a part, especially if it's squishy or soft. Right? And in this case, what they've designed is this very compliant robot hand.
기존의 로봇은 소프트웨어 물체를 짚는 것을 어려워했습니다. 이 로봇은 물체에 따라서 짚는 방식을 어댑트할 수 있습니다.
Much like the legs and things like Rex and the ant that you saw earlier, that's able to conform to whatever shape it's picking up. A lot like we do with our own hands, right? But we have a lot of muscles that enable that. So we can make hands much more capable than they've been in the past.
인간의 손에는 많은 근육이 있어서 어댑트할 수 있습니다. 로봇도 인간의 손처럼 어댑터빌리티를 가질 수 있습니다.
We can also do things like incorporate AI and learning networks. And so this is a room, Google in California, and they have just a boatload of robot arms just continually trying to pick up objects and determining, was I successful? Did I pick it up or did I not? And changing the strategy a bit each time. And based on this, I can learn good strategies that work even with very simple grippers.
구글에는 많은 로봇 arm들이 있는 팜이 있는데 물건을 짚는 방식을 전략적으로 계속 연구하고 경험을 통해 배우면서 네트워킹으로 서로 정보를 공유합니다.
And this is one of my favorite new things. So this happened about in May, so a couple months ago. This came from the OpenAI project that Elon Musk has a lot of input into. And in this case, what they were trying to do is take a human in virtual reality with one episode of training on a task. And it's a very simple task, just stacking blocks, right? But based on that one episode in virtual reality, they had a robot learn how to do the same task regardless of where the blocks were originally.
오픈AI는 일론 머스크가 지원을 하고 있습니다. 가상현실 속에서 로봇을 트레이닝할 수 있는데 사람이 한 번의 에피소드에 물건을 쌓아 올리는 것을 보여주면 로봇이 그것을 보고 학습해서 따라할 수 있도록 한 것입니다.
Now, in stacking blocks, once again, like literally a 9-month-old can do that, right? At least 2 blocks, then they knock it down, right? But in this case, what you're really doing is looking at this convergence of all of these different exponential technologies, virtual and augmented reality, AI, and robotics, and ultimately thinking about how I can have a surgeon in one place, right? Maybe it's South Africa, training a robot surgeon somewhere else, right? And you can really think about the possibilities that are enabled by all of these technologies coming together, which are really exciting.
이렇게 VR과 로보틱스의 기술을 결합하면 한 지역에 있는 어떤 외과 의사가 멀리 떨어져 있는 다른 지역의 로봇 서전을 트레이닝할 수 있습니다. 어펜덱스입니다. 지금까지 시청하신 것으로 이번 차트 수업이 인정됩니다. 로보틱스 관련 동영상을 보도록 하겠습니다.